Alright, well, it's time for another PBR with Nate. How's everybody doing? I promise you, I'm not drinking and driving. It's just, I'm in a warm vehicle. I was outside all day, and the only reason I'm sitting in this vehicle is because it has seat warmers. So I got home, got out of my vehicle, whatever, and the wife suggested you can sit in my truck because it's got seat warmers, because my knees are killing me and so is my back. I was digging a ditch. I'm too old for this crap. I really am. I'm too old for this. I'm 46, got arthritis, bad back, bad knees, blah blah blah. I can complain all day, but nonetheless, I bust my ass and earn my keep. But I'm cold because I'm skinny, and I get cold really easy, and it hurts me. So, anyway, I couldn't get warm fast enough in the house, so the wife's like, go sit in the Sequoia and turn on the seat warmer, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I'll do that. So, here I am. Okay, so topic of the day is, well, I guess you probably know what the topic of the day is that, is Virginia. Yeah, there's, I don't know, 100,000 people there protesting about the Second Amendment, which I wholeheartedly believe in. I think it's a great protest, and I think those people need to be there and show solidarity. It's as far as I've heard today. Now I don't know. I mean, it's 5:33 in the afternoon. I haven't heard anything about any violence or about anybody getting shot or anything else like that. So I don't know. So don't quote me on it. You know, I haven't heard any news reports or anything else, but I know that there's, several, 100,000 people showed up, and there's a bunch of them that had guns, several of them strapped across their chest, people walking around with AR-15s and shotguns and this, that, and another. So, I don't know. I can't say anything. However, because I haven't heard and nobody's come told me anything or anything else such as that, armed protesters, possibly 100,000 people there, most of them armed, and there's no mass shootings. I don't know. Anyway, so what that brings me to is this: is I continue to push constitutionalism, and constitutionalism. Period. I was watching this morning, and I was watching Fox News this morning early, because I generally get up around 3 o'clock because I'm old, and I need to let my joints, I need to take my Aleve and my glucosamine and all that, and let my joints get warmed up and this, that, and another. And so right around 4 o'clock or so, I'll watch a little bit of Fox News, and got to be honest with you, and my wife knows this, I'll watch it because there's some good-looking women on there early in the morning and blah, blah, blah. Fox News is just like the rest of them. CNN, anybody else. At least I got a little bit of eye candy while I'm listening to some freaking propaganda. But there was one interview that was discussing this whole Virginia thing, and there was I don't remember the names of people. Honestly, I don't, because they're all talking heads. But one was touted as a constitutional attorney, and the other was a political I don't know, like campaign person or something like that. Nonetheless. So they got to talking about the Second Amendment and got to talking about what's going on in Virginia, blah, blah, blah. And the campaign person or whatever was like, well, you know, we've had so many mass shootings and this, and this, and blah, blah, blah. And AR-15s got banned, or excuse me, what they like to call assault rifles, is an Armalite rifle. But nonetheless, I've got an assault hammer in my work van over there. I've also got an assault screwdriver. I need to shut my mouth. An assault sawzall. An assault van. Okay. I'm chasing rabbits here. They were banned for a while, and murder rates went down, and AR-15s are the biggest. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. But nonetheless, I digress. Well, you know, the other guy was like, well, we talk about the First Amendment and freedom of the press and freedom of this, freedom of that. And then this person like just jumped in, well, that's a different amendment. Okay. All right. So freedom of speech. That means that, pretty much you can say exactly what the hell you want to say when you want to say it. Now, are there consequences if you walk up to somebody and say you're a dumbass? They might have an argument with you. Or you walk up and say the government is corrupt. Or, black power or white power or Asian power or anything else such as that. We're allowed to say that. We're allowed to say the government is corrupt, or that we believe the red-headed cockaded woodpecker is a protected species and we should not destroy its habitat, or that we believe that blues music is the greatest music of all time, or anything else like that. Guess what? We all disagree on such things. I disagree with a lot of things, and there are people that disagree with what I say. But that's the beauty of free speech, is that I can disagree with you. We can have a discussion, or I can just block you out outright and just say, well, that's not even worthy of my listening to. But also included in the First Amendment is the freedom to assemble, peaceful protest, freedom of the press, for the press to print whatever it feels like. It could print that Donald Trump is a joke, or, Obama is a joke, or, George W. Bush hid from Katrina, or anything else such as that. It could do any of those things. The press can do that. You have editorial columns and things such as that. So you have the freedom of the press. So you have the freedom of the press. So when good old President Trump or anybody else says fake news, well, they have the right to say that. Donald Trump has the right to say that's fake news. He's not inhibiting the press. As a matter of fact, there's more press access to Donald Trump than there was during the Obama administration. But I know my liberal friends will say, Obama's not president anymore, so we can't talk about him. Okay, well, we won't talk about it. Let's not talk about it. I'm done with that. I'm not going to mention him anymore. What I'm getting at is this, is that we have what's called the Bill of Rights. It's the first 10 amendments of the Constitution of the United States. no single one of those is greater than the other. Right? All right, under the First Amendment, freedom of religion. It's not freedom from religion. It says the freedom of religion. So that means I can practice my religion anywhere I want to practice it at any time. I can go into a public place and pray and shout to God, read my Bible, or let's say I was, of a different faith. Let's say I was, let's choose the big three. You got Christians, Jews, Islam. Let's say I was a Jew. I could go, be Jewish in a public place. I could, read the Torah. Or let's say I was Islamic. I could, cover my head and drop down in the middle of a courthouse because it's publicly funded and my tax dollars pay for it. My tax dollars pay for that courthouse. It pays for the upkeep of the courthouse. It pays for anything else. I could take my prayer rug and I could face east towards Mecca and I could Allahu Akbar the hell out of it. That is freedom of religion. That's freedom of religion. That means that the state shall not establish any sort of religion. It shall not establish a religion because we saw what happened with, obviously with the Catholic Church, but then also we saw what happened with the king over in England, which we have great experience with. Part of the reason why we declared our independence, blah, 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 is that when he established religion, why? Because he wanted to divorce all his wives. He wanted to get some strange every day. So he established a religion. Everybody in England and all of its colonies had to follow that. The Anglican Church. They had to follow all of that. Well, over here we said no. We got freedom of religion. We can worship whoever we want to, and the state shall not establish it shall not establish a state-run religion. That's what we're talking about. It's not that you can't pray in a freaking school or whatever else. It's just that the state cannot establish and force you to worship whatever the state says. That's what it is. Jesus. Love you, Jesus. Come on, get with it. That's what it's talking about. So, that brings me to this. So is the Second Amendment any different from the First? That the freedom of the press, that the press can print whatever the hell it wants to without actually out and out lying. Well, if you out and out lie about somebody, then, you can get sued, blah, blah, blah. But that is not in the government's problem. That's up to courts are sort of the government, but nonetheless. That gets into a whole different can of worms. What we're talking about here is the Second Amendment any different from the First or the Third or the Fourth or the Sixth or the Eighth or the 32nd or, whatever? No, it's not. The Second Amendment is what I believe is possibly the most important. And the reason is because it protects all others. The founders honestly believe, really, they used the Second Amendment before it was even an amendment. Great Britain come and said, we want your guns. We shot them. That's basically it. Seriously, that's it. We shot them. We run them out and said, this is our country. We're going to do things the way that we want to do, and we're going to build this up the way that we want to build it up, and we did it. Now, I have many, many friends on opposite side of this argument than I am. And they will say, well, the Constitution is a living document, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Is War and Peace a living book? Does it mean anything different than it actually does? The works of Plato, or Homer, or Socrates, or Immanuel Kant, or let's go to all the classics. Do they mean anything differently than they mean now? Do we have separate definitions of words or anything else? No. The Constitution is the Constitution. It is what it is. So we can't read anything else into it other than what it says. Now, I'm sure I'm going to have several friends or whatever that's going to try to argue with me on this, and they're going to hem and haw and try to make me chase down 1,000 different Supreme Court decisions and this, that, and another, like, well, you don't really know what you're talking about because you don't know this Supreme Court decision or that one or whatever else. No, I'm not. I'm an electrician. I'm a blue-collar worker with a high school education. However, I have 142 IQ, and I can read. I have a dictionary. I have the Constitution. And as a matter of fact, one of my next things I'm going to get is the Federalist Papers, which talk about how they hammered out the Constitution amongst themselves and deals with all that. So you get direct reference from the framers. I digress. Again, I'm getting off on a rabbit trail. So what we're talking about here is Virginia. And honestly, it's not just the gun control measures and whatever they're trying to pass. They're trying to ram down the throat of Virginia voters and Virginia citizens a tyrannical government. Now, yeah, the gun control issue is big. It's huge. That's why there's 100,000 people there now. That's a massive, massive deal. Because these measures that they're trying to pass fly in the face directly of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. But it's not just that. You look at a transportation bill they're trying to push through, which is going to get pushed through. It massively increases gas taxes. Now they'll say, well, we took away the the inspections and we took away the restrictions on this and blah, blah, blah. But now the gas tax in the next, it's either 3 or 4 years or something like that, is going to be directly tied to inflation. You say, well, that's boring. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What inflation means is that, the dollar becomes so, so worthless or whatever, that you have to spend more money to buy less goods. Basically, the dollar loses its worth, but the cost of goods remain the same or even go higher. Okay, so, all right, well, I don't have to get my vehicle inspected. Well, I won't have to pay that $25. But yet, this next year, you're going to pay 20 cents on the dollar. The year after that, you're going to pay 24 cents on the dollar. And the year after that, 27 cents, blah, blah. And it goes up. And then in the third year, it gets tied directly to inflation. So from there on, in perpetuity, as a permanent tax, it gets tied to inflation. So it could go up astronomically. But here's another kicker. So, they all talk about environmentalism and how we love the environment and climate change and this, that, and another. Well, another thing that's tied to it is that, okay, if you buy a fuel efficient vehicle, whether it be, a gas burner that gets 25 to 30 miles a gallon, or if you get a Tesla, an electric vehicle or whatever, then they are going to make you pay an equivalent tax in that to match the gas tax, or possibly pay some sort of highway stipend. You can opt in for that, kind of like the Peach Pass here in Georgia, but the Peach Pass, they're talking about Peach Pass for all the highway, not just, a lane or two. So, it's tyranny. It is absolute tyranny. It is a tyrannical government that is taking control up there in Virginia. They got one vote in the Senate, one vote majority in the Senate. Yeah, they got the governor, and they got a handful of votes in their house. They are becoming a tyrannical government. They are becoming tyrannical. And it's really laughable because the motto of Virginia is Sic Semper Tyrannis. Basically, in Latin, I'm not going to do it. Screw the tyrants. So, I don't get it. Just because of Northern Virginia, one little pocket up there, right up there, right around Maryland and Washington, D.C., that the rest of the state has to suffer. I just don't. So that goes to show you, I live in Georgia, Adairsville, by the way. Northwest Georgia, God's country as far as I'm concerned. This goes to show you what happens when all these people flood down because they're escaping a high tax, high regulated state, but they continue to vote the same way. They take a state, a red state, and flip it, albeit by just a tiny little bit. And next thing you know, there's 100,000 people in the street with guns strapped to them, protesting some bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. Tyranny is alive and well today. They're coming after your freedoms. The freedom to drive your car on a road. The freedom to, it's not just the freedom to arm and defend yourself from whatever, or arm and defend yourself from a tyrannical government. It's the freedom to move and live in today's society. They want everything. So, they talk about free this and free that, free that. There's nothing free. A tyrannical government takes that from tax-paying citizens and gives it to somebody else and redistributes it. It's taxation without representation. The Boston Tea Party, the whole reason we have this country in the first place, and we're throwing it away. It's that freedom and liberty-minded individual that is being cast by the wayside and being called archaic. I'm being called archaic. It said, I want to live my life my way. Say what you will about Reagan when he said American exceptionalism. The individual's rights are being trampled on. Your rights are being trampled on left and right. You can't say what you want. You can't say that I don't like. You can't say that I'm not a fan of transgenders, because then that makes you transphobic. You can't say that, I don't want open borders, because then that makes you racist. You can't say that I don't want, I don't want more school taxes, because then that makes you just, I don't know, it makes you all kind of phobic. There's all kind of phobics out there. And that's exactly what they want. They want that power. They want to pull in that power. And I'm not just talking about Democrats. I'm not just talking about those jerks running for president or anything else. I'm talking, there's plenty of people on the other side that we like to call rhinos or whatever. They want that power too. It's part of the Bacon Wrap Shrimp Club. They want that power. And they want to hold it over your head. And they want to just divvy out, little freedoms here and there, just kind of spoon feed you. But I'm here to tell you something. I didn't serve my country to live in this kind of country. Freedom, liberty. Like Virginia says, sic semper tyrannis. But they're throwing that all away. Are we going to throw that away? Are we going to throw our rights away? Basic human rights that we have in this country, as laid out by the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. Constitutionally guaranteed to us. Don't let this government sit there and say, lay down, we can take care of you. Because they can't. I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. They ain't here to do nothing. So anyway, stand up for your rights. Stand up for the God-given rights. Constitutionally granted rights. Just do that for your fellow man. Even if you don't believe what your fellow man believes. You know what? He might believe that a telephone pole is his creator. Guess what? He has the right to believe that. And he has the right to talk about it in a public place. And he has the right to defend that right. And I have the right to stand next to him and defend his right. Just like if you want to, if any of my friends want to stand on a street corner and start preaching Karl Marx. If you're my friend and I love you, I don't agree with you. But if you got to get something off your chest on a street corner about Karl Marx or about Mao Zedong or about Lenin or anybody else, which I think would be ridiculously stupid, but if you come to me and say, hey, would you stand with me while I preach about Lenin on this street corner and make sure that nobody beats me up? You know what? I'd stand right next to him. Because that's the right they have in this country. Even if I don't agree with it. Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, all of those idiots were stupid and idiotic. And I will never agree with that. Ever. Or Castro or any of those. Che Guevara, I will never agree with that. But if you ask me, if you want me to stand with you, I will stand with you and I will protect your right to stand on a street corner and preach that kind of heresy. Because I made an oath, a sworn oath to uphold the Constitution. And guess what? That is your right. But now when I wear this hat, would you stand with me? Would you stand with me? Because I promise you I would stand with you and let somebody come near you. Oh my God, let somebody come near you while you're doing that. I promise you I would stand with you. Would you stand with me? Would you stand with me? This is our right. Our rights guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States and under God. If you don't believe in God, fine. But it's guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. And I'm staying with you. Would you stand with me? So, Virginia, remember, sic semper tyrannis, and stand by that. Stand by it. Stand strong. I'm with you. I'm with you. Anyway, so here's to everybody. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, whatever the hell you want to call it. Anyway, bottoms up. With liberty and justice for all, baby.